Hi, my name is Kenn Norman, and I'm the co-founder and current chair and CEO of the Fashion History Museum in Hespeler, which is the northern part of Cambridge, Ontario. We have relocated into an old post office built in 1928 and opened for service in 1929. It was decommissioned in 1993, and we leased the space at the end of 2014. We have 3 galleries. The first one is Gallery 1, which has treasures of the collection, an overview of some of the oldest and more rare things that we have, and to give an idea of the kind of things that we collect and why we collect. Gallery 2 has Back to the 80s, and that's the 1980s, for a lot of people who remember the wide shoulder pads, etc. And in Gallery 3, we currently have an exhibition of photography called Punks and Posers, Portraits from New York and London. And those are both the club scene and the street style of the 1980s. We had a very interesting challenge in converting the post office into a museum, and we're doing it in 2 phases. The first phase is now pretty much complete. So we've retained a lot of the original site. You'll see that in our Gallery 1, that's the original post office section, and that has a terrazzo floor that was added in the 1950s. What is now the glass case area was originally the postal counter for service, and it acted as a real community hub where people would come in and collect their mail. Gallery 2 is more or less an open space before that was a work area, and so out of it we created a very distinct feeling of 2 separate areas, and flowing into a 3rd gallery, which is in the back, leading towards what was originally the loading dock. And eventual plans are to actually expand out into the loading dock, creating a programming room and a library archives. So further back to the 80s exhibit, you'll start with, in the opening panel, we have a giant Swatch watch, which we found online, actually through Etsy, one of our favorite places to shop. Originally we thought it was actually just a normal size watch, and then realized by the dimensions it was originally for a store display. And we have a variety of things. We have different looks. We decided rather than doing chronological, we'd do by genre, if you will. And so we start off with the punk idea, and you'll see boots that have skulls on them. We have a number of Japanese design as well, which has influenced current design in structure. And part of the Japanese mantra, if you will, is the idea of creating something that's of classic style so that you can wear it for a long period of time. And thus you're investing in the quality of it and the structure of the garment itself. So very well constructed. So we're quite pleased to have that. One of the things that was popular in the 80s is aerobicize, and so we have an exercise outfit from that as well that we also got online. We also have the mall look, and something that's far more popular and common look for the period of wearing like pushed up jacket sleeves and lightweight cotton and so forth. Everything to denim as well, something that was very comfortable and became sort of a uniform of sorts where everyone would wear that, so everyone can recognize it and identify with it. And Paul Smith's shirt as well with a calculator all over it, that's also kind of fun, on loan as well from the London and UK. And then we get more into what is probably the most common image that we have now of the 80s, of the giant shoulder pads. And so there's a good variety there as well. Everything from the Everyday sort of Dynasty, a popular television show of the time, and Knots Landing, also with a lot of similar characters on it and actors, right through to couture. And there's a Valentino at the end as well, which is part of the idea of, again, going into the genres rather than into the chronological. It talks a lot about how couture was still impactful in this period too, of the yuppie look, of being able to show your wealth and your success through the work that you've done, of being able to show the kind of clothing that you could buy. The museum being founded 11 years ago, it's been on quite a journey to find a location that would become a home. In 2013 we had a pilot gallery located in a shopping mall, which had been repurposed from originally a foundry. And we found that being open there for 4 months with just about 8,000 visitors, it was a good location for us to consider being in Cambridge. That particular location was not suitable as a museum environment for a number of reasons. And so it took us about a year before we found this current site. And that was from a number of visitors who had come who were from the Hespeler area and determined to have us consider Hespeler as a location. We viewed the site in June, I believe it was, of 2014 for the first time. And after a number of months of negotiating back and forth and working with the city, working with zoning, etc., decided to lease the space and take the opportunity of locating here. One of the reasons we selected this post office was for its intimate size, and it was a very conscious decision by us to select a location that you could feel like you had something very personable as a visit, no matter where you came from, that it was worth the effort to get here. The artifacts on display currently are ranging from about 1600 to the present day. We start off with a coffer, which is like a chest or a trunk. It predates having a closet in your bedroom, and so this is where clothing would be stored. We have a deerskin shoe from about 1660, and that was worn in New Amsterdam, which has now become New York City. We have an embroidered Dutch shoe from about 1735, actually owned by a famous artist and used in a number of his paintings as well. We have a dress from 1765 made out of silk, so you can see what an 18th century woman would look like. Right beside it is a leather outfit made for the bondage collection of Gianni Versace back in 1992. And it's quite interesting with all the buckles and zippers and so forth. And we have a variety of other items, including a corset made out of paper that's German, and a pair of boots from the 1920s in Austria. We have a suit made for Eva Peron that's blue and white wool. Summer weight, and we have as well a number of lace examples. Those go back to the 14th century, I believe. We have some examples as the earliest pieces that we have. We also have a brass rubbing as well, and a cashmere shawl that was made as a wedding gift, purchased by an importer who bought it for his bride during his travels. Just the stories that go with these are the fascinating part for me, to know the history. We have one Victorian dress that was owned by a girl of the age of 14, and we recently received that as a donation from a woman in the States who had tracked it down. It had been passed down through the family, through marriage, through a number of different reasons, and in the end, no one in the family was left who wanted it. And so she inherited it and passed it on to us because we could actually research it through the genealogical Ancestry.com was a good part of it, and we could actually search and go right back to where she was at school at the age of 14 wearing this dress. So that's quite fascinating for us to know that kind of story. Our online presence, you can find us through www.fashionhistorymuseum.com, and we're also on Facebook, where weekly we update with articles from our collection as well as postings of current events. We're also on Twitter, Fashion History Museum M. And physically, we're at 74 Queen Street East, which is the corner of Queen and Cooper Streets in downtown Hespeler. As I mentioned, it's part of Cambridge, Ontario. Our telephone number is 519-654-0009. And we're open Wednesday through Sunday, noon through 5. And we're also available for booked guided tours. And you can call our phone number for more information and to book a date. Thank you so much for visiting, and I hope we see you in person. We have in our collection over 3,000 titles, both contemporary books, but also old catalogs, magazines, original photographs, and a lot of archives from designers, even a design school, which was in Toronto, and a lot of sales receipts, things like that, sketches. So a really good archives and library research center for people either in design or into history, including patterns. And one of the things that we hope to actually eventually do is to provide an opportunity for interns to come and study here as well. We're in the old village of Hespeler, which is part of Cambridge, which was originally 3 towns and combined in 1973 to form what is now a large city of about 120,000 people. We had our local MPP, our provincial representative, Catherine McGarry, and she came during the opening weekend and shared a story that the leg warmers actually saved her life. She had accidentally stepped on a hornet's nest as she was jogging, and because she was wearing the leg warmers, the stings were going into that rather than into her, so she was able to take them off very quickly and not go into shock. So it was kind of interesting to hear a very personal story from a visitor experience. The collection was founded with Jonathan Walford, our co-founder of the museum, who also has been a museum working a long, long career. And he's collected from all over the world as well. And so that was the inspiration for creating the museum, which was founded in 2004. It was incorporated and became charitable status in 2009. So since then we've added quite a bit that has been donated by a variety of people. And not just Canadians, from all over the world as well. So we opened the exhibitions in June, actually with a different exhibition called What to Do with an Old Post Office. And it explained our journey of finding this museum, as well as a partnership with the Construction Specifications Canada, which had their second annual competition this year for students in architecture and interior design, and selected this building as the inspiration for that competition. And as well, because we had just rented the space, we were also selected as a case study. And we're part of the programs at a number of the universities in Toronto. And so we had a number of students coming on site even before we had prepared our moving in and renovating. And so it was great to have about 160 people at once in this building looking it over and imagining what it could become. A lot of those ideas were quite fascinating. For instance, in the loading dock area where we have a parking lot, although it's small, it inspired some students to come up with the idea of creating an outdoor theater. And so that's something that if we were to ever expand and had the opportunity to do so, that might be an interesting thing for us to adapt as well. We have probably about 12,000 items in the collection, so there's quite a lot to choose from, so there will always be a rotation in the galleries. This Gallery 2 will change out at least twice a year, Gallery 1 at least 3 times a year, and the third gallery more frequently, as it's a smaller gallery and loans itself to exhibitions of like photography or artwork or small accessories. So we're able to offer that as well for artists who want to show their work. So it's a great opportunity. There is an interesting story to this building as well, that it being a post office, it was the hub of the community, and anchoring this end of the village, there is a major commercial strip ahead of us, which has gone through the beginning of a renaissance during the past several months. There's a lot of road work happening. The road has been repaved, but also widening of sidewalks, new lampposts, and about 70 trees will be planted in the area as well. So it's kind of like a regentrification, and so the museum has become, again, like the post office, something that will anchor this end of the town and bring a lot of people into the community as well. And we hope will become quite a destination for visitors. So we also know that a number of restaurants have started opening up. We have a new cafe that's quite wonderful and very addictive for their desserts already, I've discovered, by first-hand experience. And we have a few interesting restaurants as well. Being located right on the Speed River, there's great views here, so it's a combination of nature and urban development. It's great for cycling, for people out walking and hiking as well. And that's part of what we're aiming to do as well, is bring a lot of people in who normally wouldn't consider going into a museum, but as part of a total destination stop would be interested in doing so. Phase 2 of the renovations, we've applied for a number of grants already, so hopefully we'll hear within the next few months if we've been successful with those grant applications, and therefore we'd be expanding into, as I mentioned before, the loading dock area, creating new storage rooms downstairs. There's a small area that we have now. But it's never enough, of course, as most people know from their own closets when they start to bulge. We have the same issue. And so we're going for compact storage and improved facilities for conservation, like a conservation lab, etc. That also opens up opportunities for students and interns to come to our museum for periods of study as well. People often ask, where do you get things? Why do you collect what you do? Are my things old enough to be in here? And all of it is yes. We collect everything, right up to the present day.